So welcome to another episode of Judge Softly in Conversation With. And today I'm talking to Courtney Murphy. Courtney is a Director Global Impact Citizenship at BNY Mellon. It's a mouthful, but it means mostly that you're working on the philanthropic strategy for the company. I understand, and one of the projects is building the workforce for the future, which is, I think, a great project and something that is very, momentum is there to work on that. And of course, from me working on Judge Softly for companies, there's a strong link there. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, Courtney, and I'm going to ask you the question, when is the last time you judged?
Thank you, Anne Barbara. So fun to talk to you. And when you asked me the question about when's the last time I judged, one of the examples that came to mind was from my kind of personal life here in my community, having met another another parent at the school who I only knew from seeing the person around the neighborhood and other sort of casual encounters. And when I actually had an opportunity to speak more in depth with her, I had thought, I had known she had been a teacher, but sort of assumed it had been in the same type of community, and came to realize that really she had a background of teaching in the inner city in New York City and had a real great depth of knowledge about the curriculum that the students are doing, which of course is a huge benefit to our community as we look for opportunities to enrich our kids' education. And it really just gave me, an awareness of how little we know about those who we encounter with every day, that you have kind of the visible identities that we all wear in our daily lives, but that it takes a lot of effort to get to know people better. And I have started a new role, which I'm very excited about, at BNY Mellon. And so, of course, meeting a new team of individuals who have different talents and expertise, and was just a great reminder to myself to take the time to really get to know others, to ask them questions and provide that space to learn about people's backgrounds, because all of that can be so useful in helping to make inclusive decision making and, just enjoy life more also, as you realize how rich people's experiences and backgrounds are.
Yeah, great. That's a great example. I think that's so funny, right? When we talk to people, we already have our assumptions and our expectations ready. Sometimes even based on not even talking to somebody, but just to looking at somebody, sort of seeing somebody. So I think it's, I like also your example about your new role and meeting new colleagues, because I think that is something that happens all the time, even when we work in a new team or start to work in a new team, where we meet each other in a meeting room, and we unconsciously already have clouds of assumptions and expectations of somebody, or seeing it above somebody's head, right? I think that's it's a great example. And just to, you already answered a little bit the question, but judging softly, what would that mean then in your view? Is it, so you said, right, asking more questions and getting more detail or background about somebody. Is there something else that you would think that fits judging softly?
For me, I think it means being really open-minded, and being in a corporate structure also. There are a lot of kind of structures in place with people with their roles and their titles and different seniorities. But I really am a firm believer that great ideas can come from anywhere. So also not feeling fixed to those structures, but also keeping open lines of communication. And the onus is really even more on me right now joining in a virtual environment, because unless you create the virtual meetings and others to actually have those conversations, especially the more informal, sometimes they just don't happen. But definitely, I think being open-minded, making sure you're hearing the opinions of those who might not feel comfortable speaking up all the time, and always thinking, what perspectives might not be in this room that we should be getting as we go in here. And it takes a lot of humility to realize that I don't always have the right ideas. And sometimes as a leader, that's the best thing you can do, is to be a better listener. And kind of inverting that talent assumption that you're supposed to be always coming in with the best ideas. Sometimes it's better just to provide the space for people to voice their ideas, or something for people to react to work constructively towards the goal. But I love the term judging softly, because it also gives a little bit of empathy to ourselves, that we all judge, and it's not something you can fully control. I think there's a lot of tools that you've taught me also on mindfulness and trying to, bring you the best version of yourself to your day. But, at the end of the day, we're all going to have to make judgments in order to, perform the tasks of the day and move through. So how do you do that in a way that is, the most empathetic, and also, hopefully getting the best results towards whatever it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for the feedback as well. That's great to hear. I think I like also the point about being a leader, and it shows almost more really leadership skill if you're almost brave enough, right, to first of all maybe say you don't know, but also brave enough to look at yourself first before you talk to somebody and before you react. Maybe that's I think to give an open, or create an open, inclusive atmosphere, that people feel safe to say anything they want. And I think that's it's all related to judging softly. I think it's fine that we judge. We cannot not judge. So let's do it softly and consciously. And then great. I think that's thank you. I also like to. I know in your previous role you worked also with companies at CECP to help companies create their story, or have their story straight about the purpose, right? The purpose of the company, finding their purpose as well. I think that is still also a very topic that's talked about a lot, about finding purpose for companies, not only for individuals but also as a company. How did you see there? How did judgment play a role there when you helped companies to create their story, and to find their purpose? What can you say something about that? Is there any link there with judgment?
Sure. Well, CECP stands for Chief Executives for Corporate Purpose, and it's a nonprofit that advises and convenes and provides guidance to companies on their corporate purpose. It was founded as an organization focused more on corporate philanthropy. So by that, it's kind of the investments that companies make in the community, to be a good corporate citizen. And also, there's other benefits to the company of employee retention, morale, and benefit to the brand, and other types of soft benefits to the company. And over time, it's become more central to business strategy. So rather than something that's sort of done on the side, I think, a lot of research, if you look at like Edelman Trust Barometer, or a lot of other leading research on, both consumer expectations as well as employees, what they want is really to work somewhere where they feel like they don't have to have a big disconnect between their personal and their kind of work persona. And similarly, consumers, that they want to put their dollars to work somewhere that they feel, is good for the environment, is supporting the community. But there's definitely judgments within that. So first, there's judgments, when companies kind of take a stand. Sometimes, there's always risk inherent in that too, by, trying to be a leader in certain areas. And there's a risk if you don't do it in a way that's authentic. So, if it's sort of greenwashing, or a only cause marketing, where it's not really backed up by, authentic work within the company, that could then create judgments about the company, that they're not being authentic, that they're just trying to, ride this wave or this trend of kind of social consciousness. So at CECP, we provide a lot of data and research to help to make the business case for why it's actually good business to think more long term and to make decisions that are in service of all stakeholders. And, was fascinating to be included in a lot of conversations at different companies about what is their purpose. That, you might be making clothes, but is there a higher purpose to that? Are you, bringing people together? Are you fostering creativity? Are you having some sort of a sustainability impact? And there's a lot of ways of kind of elevating the purpose that can, create more of a mission-focused alignment, even for, companies that are profit-seeking. It's not that you need to change your business model, but really kind of harness the influence that companies have, and we all have influence in different ways. And so it's almost about becoming conscious of the influence that you have and using it as a force for good. And then with that, hopefully comes positive judgments and positive alignment with the stakeholders that, contribute to your success.
Yeah. And I like the consciousness point. So it's also when you worked with those companies, is it not only like the fear of the judgments of the other stakeholders, but did you also go much more in depth in their own persona, like you said, right? Did they also look at their own will of purpose or their own idea of what purpose is, and then of course looking after that also what stakeholders want? But I think looking first, like we just said, right, looking first inside and then going out, was that part of the process, or was there?
Absolutely. I mean, at a company, it needs to be, there's so many different stakeholders that you don't want it to be too like individual driven if you're looking at the full company. But one of the biggest reasons that companies do have kind of corporate purpose and philanthropy programs and skills-based volunteerism, pro bono, all of these things is really for the ability to activate some of that personal purpose through your work. And so a lot of the opportunities are kind of individually driven also, especially as it relates to, any of the volunteerism aspects. Or the other aspect of this also that's closely aligned are the employee resource groups. And they're called different things at different companies, but often are affiliated with different diverse groups like LGBTQ or women or veterans, or many companies have different types of groups throughout the company, but allow people to really bring their full self to work, and then often partner with nonprofits that are aligned with causes that they care about, and reach outside of the company to use your expertise or connect, or it can be more kind of general volunteering based on what it is, but often that goes hand in hand with financial investments and is a way to feel really good about where you work and the impact that you're making. Depending on what your job function is, you may or may not get that gratification in your day-to-day job. I feel really, grateful that I've found a profession that actually is aligned with my personal values and that allows me to try to share that with other people and make a positive impact, while also supporting the corporate goals of BNY Mellon. And to help others try to find that as well.
That's great. I think you I love the new role that you have, and I would love to hear more, like when you're a little bit further in the role, a little bit more about the role.
The labels are interesting too, because I haven't seen this. I haven't been at BNY Mellon long enough to know, but some companies have kind of pathways programs where they'll bring in, high potential individuals into the company through a program that's kind of known internally as being a program, for specific populations, which can be great because it can get people in the door. But then sometimes that label can be a barrier to advancement, and some companies have trouble retaining that talent. So, the judgments, you have to be careful also about kind of what judgments people might put on themselves or might have of those. And I guess one other thing that comes to mind. Sorry, my dog. I'm going to get rid of her 1 second. working from home.
Yeah.
And working in the philanthropy space is when you're working with communities, not assuming you know what they need. So one thing that, trying to become more aware of, again, kind of having that humble perspective that I don't have all the answers, certainly, especially if I'm, trying to work with a community that I don't have lived experience in, and not trying to presume that, we can make this grant and this is what you want it to go towards, but actually listening to, not only like the nonprofit partner, but also, constituents within that group, because sometimes there are barriers or, roadblocks that I would never be able to consider.
Yeah.
That might be something that is holding somebody back, or, a different way of approaching it that's more empowering.
Yeah. Interesting. Thanks. Well, thank you for your perspective. I would love to talk more, and we will, I'm sure. But for now, this conversation, I think it's great. I think to summarize, I think we get back during a couple of examples that you gave is really about those expectations and assumptions, right? Where maybe hold back on having those ready, but maybe first get to know somebody better, or be curious about somebody's background, or so it's great. I think I love what you're doing, and thank you for doing that as well. And well, we will continue our conversation for sure, I'm sure. Thank you so much for your
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.